What the hell? Ning shouted in surprise when he saw his own fingers start to have multiple black spots in them, and it was much more densely packed than the women's. *T, this is contagious, he thought. However, that had helped him narrow things down a lot more. He looked at his fingers and tried to find out if he could feel anything, but either fortunately or unfortunately, there were no sensations. That narrowed a lot more. There were only 4 possibilities left in his mind now. So it's either the fat-killing plague or... Suddenly, screams appeared from outside. Ning immediately walked out to check what was happening. When he finally saw the scene in front of him, he was beyond terrified. In front of him were hundreds of different people who all had different amounts of black spots all over them. Men, women, children, the disease made no distinctions. Ning looked to the side and saw a fat person with a black spot all over him. So, no, the fat-killing plague. The possibilities were down by 1. He looked around to find other peoples that could help him get more answers. He saw a blonde person amongst the crowd who had a considerable amount of black spots. Not the disease that attacks bases on melanin levels in the hair either. What about the skin? He wondered as he looked at another person with very dark skin. Even those people had darker spots all over them. Ning looked down at his own hands and noticed that the black dots had extended up to his elbow. Damn, that is fast, he thought. So, if it's not that then, as he was thinking, he caught sight of a young teenage girl with absolutely no black spots on her skin. She was standing still in the crowd, clearly terrified of what was happening, yet it not happening to herself. Ning ran up to her and asked, "Hey miss, you mind if I check something?" he asked. The terrified girl looked at Ning and saw that he was a volunteer and quickly nodded. He placed his palms on her back and used the yin to sound conversion technique. Immediately, a loud sound appeared from where he touched the little girl. As I thought, it's that one. Ning removed his hands and told the girl, "Close your ears." As soon as the girl closed her ears, Ning took a big breath and screamed, "Everyone, calm down. There is nothing wrong with you." Some people stopped and looked at Ning. Hearing a volunteer say that nothing was wrong was quite a relief, but most people still screamed and ran away. Ning screamed a few more times, using all of his cultivation base to scream at the top of his lungs, yet only a few stopped. He cried out a few more times, but nobody really listened. They ran around like a chicken without its head, screaming that they were going to die now. Ning was out of breath and the people were just too many to say anything to. Everyone stop running. It's okay, stop running. Stop causing problems. Suddenly, Ning heard a few others scream as well. He turned around to see that the other volunteer was speaking up in his stead. Ning too joined and soon, everyone was calmed down. "Please, you have nothing to worry about. These black spots will go away on their own in about a month. You do not have to worry about them at all," Ning told them once they all calmed down. "Please return home in a calm manner and tell everyone you meet the same thing. They have nothing to worry about and that it will go away on its own in a month," Ning said. Slowly, the people started leaving the place and soon nobody except for the volunteers were there. "Good job, Volunteer Ning. You took care of the chaos very well," Roser came and said. "Thank you, Brother Roser," Ning said. Ning looked back on the open door in his room and saw that the girl had also already left. "Be Brother Ning, your face," Roser said. Oh yeah, I have the thing. You guys will have it soon too," Ning said. "What? Can't we prevent it?" one of the volunteers said. "Oh God, I don't want to fall ill," another one said. "Huh? Didn't you guys listen to what I just said? It will go away on its own in a month. It's not a problem at all," Ning said. "What? You were telling the truth." The volunteer was pretty surprised at the fact that he wasn't lying. "You guys helped me not knowing it was the truth?" Ning asked. "It's our job to control the crowd. So I thought that was what you were doing in the first place." "Wow, I didn't know that you actually knew what the problem was," Roser said. "Brother Ning, if you really know what happened then you should report this to the guild so that they know what to do in the case of people coming again," Roser said. Ning nodded and decided to do just that. He walked over to the registration hall and let the reception know what had happened. The guy at the reception was shocked. He immediately called someone and a girl walked out from inside. "We already have enough patients in there. Why are you calling me here?" Michaela said as she got out. "Sister Michaela, Volunteer Ning here says that he had something to relay to the guild regarding the new disease," the man at the registration said. Michaela was a little shocked and looked at Ning as she asked, "You know how to fix the new disease?" Something like that. I have information that the elders and physicians might not, Ning said. Michaela contemplated for a bit, but in the end, Ning was a volunteer, which was enough for her to not deny his request. All right, follow me, volunteer Ning, she said and took him inside the guild. Michaela kept thinking of where she had heard the name Ning before. I'm sure I heard Master speak of him sometime in the past, but where, she couldn't remember easily. Ah, you are the volunteer with the weird dances, she said as she finally remembered who he was. Weird dances. Ning was a little confused as to what she meant. Yeah, I heard you do weird dances every time you healed one of the pregnant-looking women, Michaela said. Ah, that's not a dance. It's a technique, but yeah, that is me, Ning said. I'm surprised neither the granddaughter nor the grandfather remembers me after I shaved my head. I must have been a blimp in their otherwise massive radar, he thought. Along the way, he could hear sounds of panicking from each of the rooms in the hall. Soon, she took him to a room where her master resided. Master, Volunteer Ning is here and he says that he has some information about the black disease, Michaela said. Oh, Volunteer Ning. Please, come on in. I can certainly use your help this time, the first elder said as soon as he saw Ning. Ning walked into the room and saw a bunch of people standing in front of him, all with the same black spots. I see. They must have directly come here instead of the volunteer hall. So, they don't know anything. You have information, Volunteer Ning, the first elder asked. Yes, First of all, he said as he turned to the people and said, you guys can go home. There is nothing to worry about. These are simple black spots and don't do any harm to the person at all. They will also slowly disappear in a month. You can rest assured. Also, please relay the same information to anyone panicking. They have nothing to worry about, Ning said. The people didn't know what to do. They knew he was a volunteer, but having a physician's word was much better. The first elder saw the atmosphere and immediately spoke. Volunteer Ning is an excellent doctor. You can take his words as the truths. The people were finally relieved and left the room. The first elder turned towards him and asked, was that true, or did you lie to make them feel safe for now? That was the truth. There is nothing to worry about, Ning said. Can you explain why? The first elder asked. I think it will be better if I explain to everyone at once, Ning said. True. Michaela, go and tell the other physicians to relay the same information as what Volunteer Ning just said, the first elder said. Michaela was a little surprised at how quickly her master came to accept the words of a volunteer that hadn't even told them anything. Are you sure, master? Volunteer Ning may know what is happening, but on the off chance, shouldn't we? It doesn't matter right now. Even if Volunteer Ning is completely wrong in his analysis, we still need to control the panicking crowd. Just go and relay the information for now, and tell every volunteer and physician to meet in the learning hall, the first elder said. Yes, master. Michaela quickly said and relayed the information. The loud noises in the physician's hall were finally silenced once the people started to get relieved and left. Ning and the first elder made their way to the learning hall. I really hope you know what you are doing, Volunteer Ning. A lot of people's lives are at risk, the first elder said. Don't worry, first elder. I wouldn't make such a mistake with my own life at risk, he said as he showed the first elder his hands with black spots all over it. I see, the first elder seemed to be a little more relieved. Soon, people started gathering in the lecture place of the learning hall, and Ning stood on top of the stage. He took a look at the hundreds of people standing in front of him and remembered the times when he taught the villagers in Clavis how to read and write. I hope I can see them again. Hopefully, most of them are alive, he thought. However, he quickly pushed away from the thought as now was not the time. The top physicians were all on the stage, waiting for Ning's explanation, while the others were all sitting in chairs in the audience. Volunteer Ning, now that everyone is here, maybe you should start explaining to us what is happening. As far as I know, not a single physician or volunteer here knows what is going on, the first elder said. Yes, Ning said and started explaining. These black spots are not an infection, or disease or simple illnesses. They are instead bugs, Ning said. What? Bugs? Did he say bug? How did bugs get inside my skin? I have never heard of such bugs. Please immediately started to talk amongst themselves. Yes, they are bugs. They are called the yang festering bugs. They are incredibly small. So small that multiple of them can go into your body through a single pore in your skin. They get into your body and start eating the yang energy inside of your body. Once they are full after eating, They reproduce and give birth to more young festering bugs, while the ones that got full themselves die. Those dead bugs are what you see on the skin as the black spots. In fact, if you were to cut open my hands right now, you will see the black spot all the way to my bones and organs, Ning said. The volunteers and even the veteran physicians were surprised at the explanation. Not a single one of them had heard about the young festering bugs ever. They didn't know whether Ning was telling the truth or making stuff up. Kazir stood up and asked, "Volunteer Ning, are you saying that all of this panic was caused by bugs?" "Yes," Ning said. I don't think there is a single book in the library that talks about these bugs. Can you tell me where you learned about them?" Kazir asked. "I read about them back when I was a member of the Mist Origin sect. They had a book with special bugs, and young festering bugs was one of them," Ning lied for the moment. "Oh, Mist Origin sect, huh? Does that mean that these bugs can be tamed?" Kazir asked. Ning understood what this meant. If he told them that it was possible, then it would imply that Mist Origin sect was probably behind this all. However, he didn't have any good feelings about the Mist Origin sect, so he would happily tell the truth right now. Yes, they can be tamed. The process is a little hard, and cannot be done by anyone in the chi condensation realm. You have to tame a lot of these minuscule bugs at once, so you need to have at least the divine sense to do that. So, only a foundation establishment realm or higher cultivator could possibly tame this, Ning said. "Oh, and does the cultivator need to control the bugs to transfer them between humans?" Kazir asked. "No, they transfer through any medium. Food, water, air, touch. Once they are let loose they will go into any person, eat their young, reproduce and spread again. These bugs, however, are not harmful at all. They just eat your young and cause no other problems. They can't reproduce continuously either without being able to not reproduce again after a while. They need some time in between to grow, which they don't get at all because they love eating young so much. So, in the end, they start to die in a month after eating too much and reproducing too fast. So, we don't have to worry about them at all," Ning said. The volunteers and physicians nodded when they heard Ning's answer. If what he said was true, then aside from the complications that some people might suffer from lack of yang in their body, there were no other problems to worry about. "What about the black spots? Do they go away?" someone asked from the crowds. "The black spots are just clumps of dead bugs. Your body will both decompose them and push it out on its own within a month," Ning said. "I see, then we truly have nothing to care about," Kazir said. "However, is there any other way these, young festering bugs could have gotten into the city?" Ning thought for a bit and looked into both the medical and beast knowledge he had and said, "Young festering bugs cannot survive in the open environment as they would always latch onto a living being to eat the yang energy, so they always die off. The only way for them to live is if someone caught them in a ceramic or glass jar where no light could pass through. That way they don't get to eat yang a lot and don't constantly reproduce enough to simply die off. Only then can they truly survive for long," Ning said. "I see. So, what you are saying is, there is a culprit behind this?" Kazir asked. Ning did not hesitate at all as he said, "It would seem so." "I see," Kazir thought to himself. "Is there anything else you want to say, or are you done with the explanation?" Yes. Stay in the sun and don't stay indoors if possible. The more young they get to eat, the faster they will die off," Ning said. "Yes. That is a good idea. Everyone, you heard him. Go and tell the people in the city exactly this and that they have nothing to worry about. Still, tell them to come to see the physician just in case they have some problem. You are all dismissed," Kazir said. Once the people left, Kazir called Ning and said, "You said that one needs to be a remarkable tamer for this to work, right? Let us go and see Ikusa, he might know something." "Ikusa, that's the sect leader of Mist Origin sect, right? Does he suspect the sect leader to be behind this?" Ning wondered. "Yes," Ning said and walked out with Kazir. The evening had already turned to night. Kazir and Ning walked amongst the crowded road as there were still people screaming all around them, but it was nowhere near what would have happened if the Physicians Guild didn't immediately send out people to explain the situation to the masses. Kazir and Ning reached the gate and the guards did nothing whatsoever to ask for his identity. He must be really well known. I wonder what his status is in the guild, Ning wondered. The first elder was the head of the guild, so it couldn't be Kazir, and the sect leader of the pure cleansing sect had some different name, so he wasn't that either. Soon, they reached the Mist Origin sect where they were led into the sect and taken directly to the sect leader. Kazir and Ning walked in to see the sect leader sitting on a chair behind the desk. The sect leader, Ikusa, was a buffed man who was clean-shaven and has a head full of white hair. There was a multicolored bird on his shoulder, whose eyes gleamed with hints of intelligence in them. "Whoa, a rainbow phoenix," Ning said in shock. A rainbow phoenix was a beast that had hints of blood in them from an actual phoenix. They were quite rare, even in the large forests in the central continent. "What brings a man like Kazir Brouch to my doorstep?" the sect leader asked while sitting cross-armed with his feet on top of the desk. He looked quite arrogant from his act. "I wonder if you know what is going on in the city," Kazir asked. "If you mean this, then yes, I am aware," the sect leader said as he opened up his arms and showed the black spots all over his arm. "I started getting them about an hour ago. It's slowly going up my body and I do not know if they will ever stop." "That makes it easier then. Can I ask if you know what they are?" Kazir asked. Isn't that your job to tell me? You are the physician here," Ikusa said. "Under normal circumstances, yes. But I will have to insist on you answering the question this time," Kazir said. Must be something serious then. Let's see, I'm poisoned? Doesn't feel like it though. Cursed maybe, although I doubt it. Maybe it's an illness that makes me grow old. Honestly, I have no idea. Just cut to the chase and tell me," Ikusa said with a hint of impatience. "Interesting. I would have assumed you to make some lies, but it seems you truly are unaware," Kazir said. "Just get to the point, old man. I don't have time to waste with you," Ikusa said. Kazir nodded and looked at Ning once before turning back to ask, "Have you heard about something called the Yang festering bugs?" Yang festering bugs? What's that? I've never heard of any BU. Wait. Ikusa suddenly stopped mid-sentence and stood up. The rainbow phoenix was startled and flew away, and perched on top of a hanging swing. Ikusa quickly walked over to a closet and after doing a bunch of random things, opened the door and took out a single book. He quickly flipped to a part of the book and said, "Yes, here it is. Yang festering bugs. Love to eat yang. Dies after reproducing. Leaves black spots all over the body. Oh, so that is what is happening to me, huh? Haha, and here I thought I was going to die. It's just a bunch of bugs." Ikusa seemed to be absolutely unafraid of these bugs. Kazir got curious and asked, "You seem to be relieved after learning the name. What happened?" "Oh, it's a harmless bug, or so the book says. So there is no need to worry," Ikusa said. "So, now that you know it's harmless, will you guys please go back to your sect?" "I'm afraid that is impossible, Ikusa. We already knew that information. We came for something else," Kazir said. "Oh, what is it that you're looking for then?" Ikusa asked as he went and sat down on his desk. The rainbow phoenix flew back and perched on top of his shoulder. "The culprit, Ikusa. I came here hoping you would know who it was," Kazir asked. "The culprit? You say like there had been a crime committed here?" Ikusa asked. "Of course. You should know that yang festering bugs cannot live and transfer on their own from fly away. They usually die off within a month. Meaning that someone tamed the bugs and let it loose in the city," Kazir said. "What?" Ikusa said in surprise and quickly read the book in his hand once again. "My book says no such thing," he said as he read it again. Kazir was a little surprised and looked at Ning with an inspecting eye. "Wait, you are right about it dying very quick though. This means there is definitely a culprit here. But even so, I can't help you. I don't even know where one would find such bugs in the first place, Ikusa. According to my friend here, the bugs can only be tamed by someone in the Foundation establishment realm, and your sect being the only ones with the myriad knowledge in taming in this city. I came here hoping you would tell me who it was," Kazir said. "What?" Ikusa finally took his eyes off the old man and looked at Ning. "Who are you? Do you know more than us regarding the bugs?" he asked. The question had a bit of threat behind it, however, Ning didn't back down. "Yes, I do know a bit about the bugs, and it is absolutely true that someone let them into the city on purpose," Ning said. Can't it be that someone had the bugs in them and they traveled here?" Ikusa asked. "That is a possibility, but that won't explain how every single person in the city all got the bugs at once," Ning said. "Aye, that's true," Ikusa said and then turned towards Kazir before saying, "Which that is true, it's still a truth that I have no idea who did it. And if someone from my sect did it, it would have started in our sect. Besides, what's the problem with spreading a few harmless bugs? All it does is create panic. Try asking your staff and seeing if someone knows anything. You won't always have all the information," Kazir said. The two started arguing and Ning fell into thought. Something Ikusa had said had made him consider everything once again. He is correct. Aside from a few problems here and there, these bugs do nothing but cause panic. So, what's the purpose of this person? Just to terrify people for a laugh? Can't be. The attack was too coordinated to be just for trolling pay? Coordinated? Ning's eyes went wide. Mr. Kazir. I think there are multiple culprits, Ning said. What? Kazir and Ikusa both stopped. The disease was spread everywhere at once. I don't think that is possible with a single person doing that. It has to be a group of people working together. They must have gone everywhere and spread the bugs at once, Ning said. They both thought for a bit, and Ikusa said, see, the boy says there are multiple people. We did not do this. Also, we are not the only ones who can tame. Everyone with the right tools can tame any beasts. Kid, what do you think is the reason for this? Will they get anything out of this? Ikusa asked. Ning had no answer. His mind still couldn't fathom why people will go so far as to do something that has no positive or negative consequences. All it does is eat young and die. What can such a bug cause? Ning thought but couldn't come up with an answer. I don't know. Bam! The door to the room slammed open. Master! A man shouted as he came in with a rush. Somebody better be dying for you to come in here and interrupt my meeting, boy, Ikusa said. The boy's face was pale as a paper and he said, The city is on fire. What? All three of the people in the room reacted the same. What did you say, Hugo? The city is on fire? Ikusa asked in surprise. Yes, master. Please come out. We need to go and help, Hugo said and quickly walked out. The three of them quickly followed the man and walked out of the building. Far away in the distance, a reddish-orange hue could be seen in the night as the smoke reached the sky. The city was fully on fire. What is happening? Hugo, go call every elder and disciple and tell them to go assist the city in controlling the fire, Ikusa ordered. Volunteer Ning, I will rush forward. Please come as soon as you can, Kazir said and immediately flew away. Ning was a little panicked when he saw the city on fire too. Is it the same group of people? He thought. Fire? Are they trying to cause another panic? Or is this fire just a consequence of what is happening? Ning stopped thinking about such a thing and started running. His 7th Chi condensation realm cultivation base and 8th level body cultivation together made him really strong and thus he could also run very fast. From time to time, he would send out bursts of Chi behind him to propel himself forward. He still hadn't learned how to fly but had gotten far enough to know that you manipulated Chi to push you up and around. He still wasn't used to doing that, so the best he could do right now, fortunately, that was all that was needed. Ning didn't bother running all the way to the city gate. That was too far away. So, he simply ran towards the wall and jumped. A massive amount of Chi propelled him from behind and sent him flying up very high. From a single jump, he nearly crossed half the wall. He immediately opened up his fingers and turned them into hard claws. Bang! He dug his fingers into the wall and stuck there. He got his body as low as possible while hanging and once more pulled himself up with a massive force, jumping quite high. His Chi propelled him too. Within 3 such maneuvers, he reached the top of the wall. Usually, there would be soldiers staying here, guarding the city and enforcing the no-fly law. But right now, there was nobody here. Ning looked at the cityscape from up high. Flames engulfed much of the city. The cries of death and despair rung about everywhere. Man, women, children, animals. Ning could hear the cries of everything in the city from up here. This was truly a terrifying sight to see. Fear and despair once again started budding up inside Ning. The curse that the system had left him with hadn't gone away. However, Ning had felt this plenty of times before and learned to ignore it pretty easily. He heard a sound from right below the wall. He quickly looked down to see someone attacking a woman. The woman tried to run away, but the attacker kept on coming after her. Ning swiftly jumped from the wall and used Chi to slightly deviate his course of fall just enough so that he fell directly on top of the attacker below. The attacker's body got crushed as Ning landed on top of his shoulders. However, no blood flowed from the man's body. No. You killed him, the woman cried out. Huh? Ning was surprised. You killed my husband, the woman shouted. T. He was clearly attacking her. Why is she angry at me? Also, why would her own husband be attacking her in this chaos? Ning couldn't understand the situation at all. Miss, he was attacking you. I saved you, he said. But that's my HUSB. The woman's eyes went wide as she looked behind Ning. Ning also slowly turned after realizing that something was happening. The crushed body of the husband was slowly getting back up, with its arms and shoulders all disfigured. Ning could feel no cultivation base, so he was surprised. How is he alive? He wondered. ARRRGGGGGHHH. The husband spoke out despite being so broken. Ning couldn't believe that the husband was not only standing but shouting too. Boom! An explosion rang out in the distance, giving out a huge ball of flames that flew up into the sky, and in that flame's light, Ning finally saw the husband's body. His entire body was full of black spots, just like everyone else. However, his skins were incredibly wrinkly and it seemed that he had lost most of his hair. His eyes didn't even blink, and the most shocking part was that the husband wasn't breathing at all. Ning quickly checked the husband's cultivation and saw that he was indeed immortal. How is a mortal alive and shouting without breathing? Also, what is wrong with his body? Ning wondered if it was the side effect of the young festering bugs, but they were truly harmless, so it couldn't be them. Wait a moment, Ning thought as a possibility came into his mind. He immediately walked forward and put his palms on the man's chest. He waited for a few seconds to feel his beating heart, but there was none. The man's heart was not beating at all. He truly is dead. The fact that he is even walking and talking as a corpse means he is a zombie, Ning said in surprise. He was immediately reminded of the movies he watched back in the orphanage. Those slow-moving, infected, dead people that attacked anything that moved. Rawr! The zombie walked forward towards him. Honey! The woman ran past him towards her husband. Ning immediately caught her arm and pulled her back, barely missing the zombie's attack. He then moved forward and used the fanged claw technique to blow away the zombie's head, immediately immobilizing it. Miss, get back. Your husband is already dead. He is now OW. He felt intense from his right arm. He immediately pulled it out in front of him and saw that his arm was decaying and wrinkling. His arm was turning into the same as the zombie's arm. What? What is happening to me? Ning got scared immediately. Due to the amplified fear, the first thing he did instinctively was getting scared. However, he quickly erased the emotion from himself and started thinking logically. What is this? How did I get this? Why did I get this? He asked the fundamental questions to any medical procedure. What is this? He tried to think. His decrepit hand was the same as the zombie in front of him. All the way up to the decay and wrinkles. It was also very slowly moving up his arm and hurt like a B*TCH. The visuals and pain of his arms reminded him of something. The unique yin qi. This was the same feeling Ning got every time he took the unique yin qi from the different women and cleared it away. The last 2 months, he had cured dozens of women and knew exactly how it looked and felt. So, in conclusion, the answer to his first question was that it was the unique yin qi. It was traveling up his hand, practically rotting everything in the way. How did I get this? The unique yin qi was not with him when he had first arrived. Ning turned back to look at the woman once more and see if she could have been the cause of this, like all the previous women. However, she had nothing on her, either big bellies or the rotting body, to prove that she was the cause. So, Ning came to the conclusion that it was from the man in front of him. As for how exactly it could have happened, he had a good idea. He had touched the zombie to check his heartbeat, and at that time, it had transferred the unique yin qi to him. So, the answer to the second question was that it had transferred through touch. The woman hadn't been touched by the zombie yet, so it was further proof. Why did I get this? This was what puzzled Ning the most. The unique yin qi was something he was used to working with by now. So, he had experimented with it quite a few times too. He had made a discovery that unless the amount of the yin qi was massive, like when it came out of those women's belly, one's body had a natural barrier to keep it away. Without a massive amount, the qi should have never entered his body. Yet, he could tell how little yin qi there was in his arm right now, and here it was wreaking havoc despite it. This could only mean that there was either something unusual with the yin qi right now, or there was something unusual with his body. Ning's eyes went wide. Young festering bugs, he shouted in surprise. That was the only thing different with him. He had the young festering bugs. In fact, Ning's face drained in color as he realized what was happening. The entire city has it. If they come into contact with the yin qi, everyone in the city will become a zombie, he said under his breath. The answer to the third question was that he got it because of his lack of yang, which would naturally protect one's body from this small amount of yin qi. This is a coordinated attack. Whoever spread the bugs knew that would be enough to not only create panic but also make a vulnerable crowd that could become a zombie. This was a nasty ploy by someone. But who? One has to have a high level of cultivation base to even tame the beasts in the first place. So it can't be just anyone ordinary, Ning thought. There was also the problem of the yin qi. Only the women with big bellies could produce them as far as he knew, and he had cured all of them. Wait, no, not all of them. These girls weren't just the ones who cultivated the technique. The real source of the cultivation technique, where majority cultivated this technique, was Eagle Sect. The rundown sect looked like nobody took care of it, but had disciples on the inside. Ning had been curious about the sect for quite a while but didn't bother with it much because of its looks. High-level cultivators and source of yin qi, it fit perfectly. Both Kazir and Ning had mistakenly believed the Mist Origin sect to be the one behind the attack, or at least someone from the Mist Origin sect was. However, it turned out, it was actually the bizarre and mysterious Eagle sect. What is happening? Why are they attacking the city and the innocents? Ning wondered. However, he couldn't think of anything. At first, he had assumed that it had to be something like why he killed those innocent people, to hide something from everyone. However, if everyone knew something so important, then he would too, and he knew nothing. There must be another agenda here, he thought. The woman had started crying at some point. Ning couldn't do anything about that. Even if he had the system, he couldn't bring back her husband who was already dead. The only thing I can do right now is doing what I have been doing for the last few months. He had come up with the answers to the what, how, and why questions, so he was naturally going to ask the next question in the sequence. A question that every physician asked themselves. How am I going to fix this? A small buzzing sound appeared out of nowhere. The rotting, decrepit hand was slowly reverting back to its former self as the sound kept on stacking on top of each other, slowly growing louder. He had used yin to sound conversion technique. He walked up to the lady and the corpse and touched them both as yin qi left their body and increased the sound coming from him. The answer to the final question was here. He was going to take upon all the yin qi onto himself and then destroy it. Ning was running across the city with a massive sound coming off of him. Wherever he found zombies, he would kill them and take away the yin qi from them. Very soon, he came across a problem. It was night time and natural yin qi was everywhere. He couldn't separate yin qi from the unique yin qi. So every once in a while, he would stop the technique. The natural yin qi would disappear in the atmosphere, while the unique yin qi would just attack his body, rotting it very fast. He would have to run away each time and gather the unique yin qi even further. This should be enough, he thought as he started the sun god's morning cleansing technique. Soon, the unique yin qi was destroyed. Once it was gone, he started going to a different place and doing it again. He didn't know any other way to remove this unique yin qi, so he didn't even bother trying to do anything other than help the people right now. The fire had gotten under control a bit, but the number of zombies were increasing. Everywhere he went, he shouted at people to not touch the dead. The information was slowly being spread around, but that wasn't enough. It won't be enough until the people behind this are taken care of, Ning thought. Ning had started from the outer circle of the city, so it was taking him time to get towards the center. It was taking him even longer because he was helping people along the way. He barely reached the outer circle of the inner city when he was done with using the sun god's morning cleansing technique for the 7th time. He looked around at the death and destruction. This was just too much. People were running around, screaming as dozens of zombies followed behind them. The enemy gets stronger the longer we keep this up, Ning thought. Bam! A house next to him was brought down as a man was thrown through it. Ning immediately ran towards the man after seeing that he was part of the pure cleansing sect. Brother, are you okay? Ning asked while checking for any injuries or bleeding. I'm fine. She's just too strong for me, the man said as he got up. Haha, you cannot beat me. Just give up and become my servant, a voice spoke from beyond the dust and smoke where the house had just fallen from. Ning turned around to see a woman walk out of it. The woman had an evil smile and a head full of unkempt hair. However, the thing that caught Ning's eyes was the slightly blue skin. It made her seem like she wasn't human, or if she was, she had just come out of the refrigerator. Like hell, I will. The man stood as he held her staff in front of her. However, Ning could see that the man was clearly scared. Just how strong is she? Ning wondered and silently checked the lady. 7th Shi condensation realm. That's not very strong. I'm stronger than her, Ning thought. He then turned to look at the man to see if he was weaker than the woman. 7th Shi Condensation Realm. What? Ning was surprised. How is someone as the same cultivation base stronger than the other? Does she have higher body cultivation? Ning silently checked, but neither had body cultivation. Hia! The man shouted as he ran forward and swung his staff horizontally. The woman stepped back and swung her sword as well. The man had the range, but the woman had the speed. She started closing the gap quickly and slammed away the staff. The staff skipped out of the man's arm and flew to a wall near them. She then cut the man's leg, stopping him from moving any further. The woman didn't continue, however. "All right, become my servant," she said as she went forward, put her palm on the man's bald head. Bam! Ning kicked her in the stomach, but the woman was fast enough and used her sword to block his attack. I was wondering when you were going to help," she said. "She survived that?" Ning said in surprise. His body cultivation was way higher than his, yet she had survived that. Is it a skill? He wondered and quickly checked her lists of skills. However, he didn't know what many skills did and as such didn't know what hers did. None of the skills there were self-explanatory at all. "How about you become my servant as well?" the woman said as she licked her lips. Ning pulled the blood-red spear from his storage and said, "No thanks. I would rather die than have anything to do with a blue-skinned B*TCH like you." The woman's smiling face immediately turned ice-cold as she ran forward and slammed her sword at him. Ning blocked the sword and parried it with his spear as he started to move it around. He swung it from the side and attacked her. The woman blocked it directly with her sword. Ning took the spear back and spun it around to attack from the other side. The woman blocked it again. However, before she was even ready, the spear came from the other side, aiming for her head. The woman dodged but was still cut a little on her face. Black blood started spilling out of her cheeks. The woman placed her palm on her cheeks in disbelief at what had just happened. "You dare cut my face?" the woman said angrily, and her sword started lighting blue. Ning didn't know what she was doing, but he wanted to finish her quickly. So, he brought the spear back for a final blow. However, the woman swung her sword before his spear could reach her, and immediately large blue energy escaped from it, throwing Ning all the way to the wall on a house on the other side. He stood back up and soon realized his mistake. "You poor fool. You didn't even remember that you had someone to protect," she said as she placed her palm on the bald man on the ground, and soon, his head started growing wrinkled and decrepit. By the time Ning got up, she already had her palm on top of the man's bald head and it was starting to rot quite fast. Ning used the twin-step movement technique along with his chi to boost himself forward and kicked the woman. The woman was once again fast enough to block herself. She slammed on the rubble behind her and got back up with no damage. "Haha, it's over, boy. He will start fighting for me now," the woman said with an evil grin. "Just look at his rotty." Ning's arm was placed on the bald man's head as he slowly pulled the yin chi on him. His head stopped rotting and even got back its previous brilliance. "Wah! What did you do?" the woman shouted as he ran forward and swung her sword at Ning. Ning lifted the hand back and grabbed the spear with both his hands as he blocked the woman. Ting! A loud sound appeared as the sword clashed with the spear shaft. Ning had no problem blocking the attack, however, the woman stared in shock as her sword was chipped a bit. "You!" she shouted and was about to attack once again when she noticed something. Her hands that were previously very blue were slowly starting to get warmer color. She was losing her chi. A mild buzzing sound came from Ning as it slowly started to get louder. The woman looked at him, a little fear showing in her eyes as she said, "What exactly did you do? What did you do to my corpse chi?" Corpse chi. Ning finally learned the name of the unique yin chi that he had been struggling with for so long. "You bastard!" the woman screamed and slammed the sword on his staff once again. The sword didn't chip away this time, however. "She's getting weaker," Ning realized. "Is it because I'm taking away the corpse chi?" Ning immediately started to take in as much corpse chi as he could and the woman's skin slowly lost all of its blue colors. She was now just a regular 7th Shi Condensation Realm cultivator. The woman was freaking out of her mind as she could feel herself losing most of her strength. Oh no, she immediately turned around and started running away. But Ning wasn't going to let that happen. He immediately dashed to where she was and made a massive horizontal swing with his spear like it was a baseball bat. The woman realized she was being attacked and immediately used a technique to have her sword glow blue. She put the sword to her left to block the incoming spear. However, she vastly underestimated Ning's strength now that she no longer had the corpse chi. The sword was not only unable to stop the spear, it actually got pushed towards the woman and ended up being what cut her body in half. Even in death, her face could only keep the expression of disbelief. Seeing that the woman was dead, Ning turned back to the man to help him. Fortunately, only his leg was cut a little and he would be fine once he got some medicinal treatment. Ning got him his staff back and the man limped back towards the physician guild. Ning on the other hand ran elsewhere to gather more corpse chi to destroy it. I can help the people win more fights if I steal away the enemy's chi, he thought. He then ran around looking for places where fights were taking place. He encountered another fight between a woman and another woman who was using a bird and a cat monster. She was part of the Mist Origin sect and fighting with tamed beasts was just an everyday thing for them. The woman, however, was clearly losing to the enemy. Ning saw a rotting, broken corpse of a snake a little further away. She had already lost another beast. Ning got closer to help. That was when he realized that he knew the person. Sister Soria, he said in surprise. The woman looked to the side once and focused back on the battle. Now was not the time to get distracted. Oh, that man seems to know you. A friend? The blue-skinned woman asked. Why does it matter to you? Soria asked. Soria didn't get a good look at Ning's face so she couldn't tell who he was from the cloth and bald head. The blue-skinned woman said nothing else and rushed forward to attack with her sword. Soria had her own sword which she used to block the incoming sword. The woman however changed the course of the sword at the last second to block the incoming spear from the side. That, however, was useless. The spear broke through the sword and slammed into her head, blowing it apart in one shot. The one true spear strike was too much for her to handle. Oh, she died? She must have been weaker than the last girl, Ning said. Soria looked in front of her in shock. The woman she had so much difficulty with and had even lost one of her tamed beasts was killed just like that. How? She couldn't articulate anything that was on her mind. Are you okay, Sister Soria? Ning asked as he started to steal away all the corpse chi that she and her beasts might have gotten. The dead woman was in range, so Ning managed to steal from her as well. How do you know my name? Soria asked. She still hadn't recognized who he was. It's me, Ning. It's only been a few months, how can you already forget me? Ning asked. Soria's eyes went wide as she finally recognized him. How did you get so strong? She asked in shock. Let's not worry about that right now. I need to go help some more people. Can you go get some help yourself? Ning asked. Soria nodded and started walking away. Now was not the time to catch up on missed time. Ning also left the place. He needed to help as many people as possible. How is my corpse chi gone? A blue-skinned woman screamed as her skin slowly got more human color. Sigh. Why do you all say the same thing? Don't you have any other sentences to use? Ning asked. He then used one true spear to strike at the woman and killed her at once. This was the 5th woman he had killed this night. They were all surprised when he could suddenly take away their corpse chi and didn't know what to do after that. Well, the most they did after that was breathing for a few more moments. Death would come to them all eventually. Ning once more left the area after clearing away the corpse chi in the place. He was making a spiral around the city, clearing both the enemy and the corpse chi in the process. He was very confident in the fact that there were other much stronger enemies in the city and didn't want to get caught up in a fight against them yet. So, he was trying to clear as many as he could by himself. Screams and shouting rang out from everywhere. The fire was under control for one moment and out of it in another. Zombie ran about everywhere, showing just how many people had died. This was a true tragedy on a scale Ning had never seen before. Suddenly, Ning stopped running. In front of him were a bunch of people fighting against a horde of zombies. They were fighting with swords and shields and were trying to stay as far from the zombies as possible. Don't let them or her touch you. You will get turned to one of them, someone was shouting. It seemed by now many had realized that getting touched was the reason the people turned into zombies in the first place. The horde of zombies was too much for the people and they would be overrun very quickly. So, Ning ran forward and immediately jumped into the middle of the horde. What are you doing? You will die. People started shouting the moment they saw Ning do something so nonsensical. Ning didn't care about their concerns and immediately started sucking in the corpse chi towards himself. Immediately, the zombies lost their rotting and decrepit skins as they returned back to being healthy people and fell to the ground dead. They had all lost their corpse chi and were now just a bunch of dead bodies. The sound that came out from this much corpse chi was beyond anything Ning had gathered the whole day today. It was so bad that he himself was starting to wince from the sound. It was too distracting. You stole their corpse chi. A woman who was a little further away from him said as she looked at Ning. What did you do to it? Destroy it? Absorb it? Either way, it seems you are kind of dangerous to keep alive, huh? The woman said as she walked forward. Ning looked at her blue skin and knew without question that she was an enemy. Ning immediately ran forward and used the one true spear strike at the woman. The woman took out a blue-colored sword and made it brighter as she used a technique to block the attack. Using the momentum of the attack, she also jumped back at the same time to create a gap between them. Haha. No way I'm letting you get close to me. I don't know what you are doing to the corpse chi, but I am not going to let you do that to me, the woman said. This was the first woman that had managed to survive his spear strike without losing a single bit of advantage. Ning curiously checked her chi cultivation. 9th realm, huh? No wonder. Her actual battle prowess with the corpse chi must be around 1st realm of foundation establishment, Ning thought. This was going to be a troublesome battle. He needed to close the gap to about 5 meters before he could start sucking away the corpse chi from her. He needed to think of something, but he was having a hard time. Damn, this sound is too distracting. Will I die immediately if I stop it? He wondered. He didn't want to give a single chance for the woman to attack him. Closing the gap comes first. He immediately dashed forward and stopped right as he reached the woman. He didn't attack as she would use the opportunity to run away. Instead, Ning used the hypnotizing dance to try and get the woman to stop thinking for a bit. It only worked for a few seconds before she was back to her normal self, but that was enough. Ning was already spinning his spear around, attacking her from both sides one after another. The woman used her sword to block the spear, but she realized it was getting harder to stop. Not only was the spear getting stronger, but she was also getting weaker as well. Ning was sucking away her corpse chi from her, but there was just too much. Is their level of corpse chi dependent on their cultivation level? Ning wondered. Blue light shined from her sword as she directly attacked Ning. A large blue light appeared from her sword, sending him flying away. Ning fell amongst the dead bodies that softened his landing. He hadn't taken a lot of damage, but the loud sound was getting to him now. He needed to do something that wouldn't distract him or impede his ability to think during the fight. There is one more thing I can do, isn't there? Ning thought. He immediately stopped the sound. The surroundings felt as if it had all turned silent, even though the crackling of the fire and the screams of people were as prevalent as ever. The sound turned back to corpse chi and started attacking Ning at once. But Ning didn't fret. He immediately used the yin to sound conversion once more as the corpse chi started turning to sound. However, his body also started smoking. He was also using yin to heat conversion technique to equally distribute the corpse chi in his body. Ning was surrounded by loud noise and high temperature, however, neither was enough to be a hindrance for Ning. Separating the corpse chi he gathered into sound and heat had lessened the intensity of a single one, which was distracting him. However, he couldn't keep it up for long. Simply standing in the darkness meant he would steadily gather yin chi from the environment, which was detrimental to what he wanted. So, without any hesitation, he used the one true spear strike and launched forward towards the woman. However, the attack didn't land on her. The woman was nimble enough that she could easily dodge his attack and get out of the range of his yin energy gathering. The spear strike didn't land at all. He tried once more and this time tried to stop her with telekinesis, however, that didn't work out as well. Telekinesis didn't work on this woman. *T. She is heavier than me. I can't stop her, Ning thought. Telekinesis was the only ability Ning had that could be used with both his mind and energy. It had a certain range that seemed to be increasing as his mental strength grew. When he used telekinesis, he would have to use mental strength if the target was lighter than him, and energy if the target was heavier than him. Since the system had disabled all energy-related abilities, the energy aspect of the telekinesis was also disabled. So, Ning could no longer use it on something heavier than him. Once again, the woman easily escaped the incoming spear strike. *T. I can't attack her with a spear strike, he thought. So, he switched to revolving spear art. He started slowly moving the spear from side to side while spinning it around him, while constantly stacking the damage it had. The woman's eyes got serious. That's the technique that gets stronger to stop with each rotation, huh? I can't let you do that, she said and launched another blue wave towards Ning. The attack directly hit the ground where Ning was standing, but Ning was no longer there. The woman hastily looked to the side and saw him horizontally sitting alongside a building wall. Ning had launched himself to the side and landed on the wall. He once more launched himself directly towards the woman with both his movement technique and chi push combined. It was too late to dodge. "Come die," the woman shouted as she made a vertical slash just where Ning was coming from. The spear and the sword clashed as a massive ting sounded between them just before. Crack. Ning's eyes went wide when he saw what had just happened. The spear he was so proud of actually had a crack in it. The crack wasn't very big, but it was enough to severely reduce the durability of the item. **T. Real spirit artifacts are something else, Ning thought. The situation was getting worse. Seeing that the spear had a crack in, the woman started slamming down her sword towards Ning. Ning used both hands to hold the spear above him to stop the sword. Attack after attack slammed on the spear, cracking it more and more. "Ha ha ha, you're dead now," the woman shouted as she maniacally kept on slamming the sword on the spear. The spear had more and more cracks, but the damage it was taking was also getting lower and lower. The woman in her chance to kill Ning had completely forgotten about why she was staying away from him in the first place. The spear was on its final legs and with another hit from the woman, it got destroyed. The sword passed through the spear and went towards Ning's shoulders. His eyes went wide. Ning let go of the spear and caught the flat side of the blade with both of his hands. "Wah!" The woman was shocked. Ning twisted the sword to the right and expertly landed a kick to the woman's head at the same time. Bam! The woman was sent flying into a house. "Tisk. That hurt, you bastard," she said as she walked out of the rubble. "The hell do you think you were to attack me like th?" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Ning standing further away. His clothes were starting to light on fire and the sound was really strong right now. However, the thing that stopped the woman from speaking was the thing on Ning's hand. He was holding her sword. "Give it back, you bastard," she shouted as she used chi to bring the sword back to her. She had already refined the sword and thus could freely control it with her chi within a certain range. The sword tried to leave Ning's hand, but he was tightly holding it. The woman put forth her arm to pull the sword even harder and then she noticed it. Her blue arm had lost its signature color and had returned back to its normal pale white. "Wah, what?" the woman said in surprise. Her corpse chi was gone and without it, she was as strong as any normal ninth chi condensation realm now. And that was not strong at all in front of the current Ning. The woman realized this as well. From the fight she had with Ning, she knew that he was strong, just not as strong as her. However, now the situation had changed and it was very dangerous for her. Instead of pulling the sword, she pushed the sword back and ran for her life. Ning wasn't going to let that happen. He immediately pulled the broken spears and one after another, threw both of the spear halves towards the woman. One of the spear halves missed, but the other one managed to pin her to a tree along the side of the road. The woman screamed and pulled the spear out, freeing herself, but it was too late. Ning had already arrived and with a single slash of the sword, cut the woman in half. Once the woman was dead, Ning swiftly got rid of the corpse chi. It was getting very uncomfortable due to the heat and sound that he was generating. After getting rid of it, he changed his clothes to ones that weren't so burned at all. Once everything was settled, Ning left the shocked masses behind and went elsewhere to help. "Hey guys, what just happened?" someone asked. "Did he just kill one of those women by himself?" "Looks like it, although, am I really looking correctly?" someone else asked. "Where did he go? He celebrated for a bit for some reason and just left. I wonder if he went somewhere to help the people," someone wondered. "Speaking of which, we should go help too." "Yeah, you're right." Soon, the group gathered walked towards a different place to look for places where they could be of help. Ning too went around helping more people. He noticed that the new sword he had gotten was very good and was at the very least on the higher side of low-grade spirit artifacts. He still remembered how he had managed to bend the other spirit artifact he had come across some time ago using his spear, and yet now the same spear was destroyed using this sword. This must be really good, he thought. He wasn't as good with a sword as he was with a spear. He used the sword more as a staff, hoping to hit people with the sharp side rather than masterfully controlling it. Still, now that his spear was gone, he was left with this sword. By now, he had stopped worrying about helping the other people with the corpse chi and thought more about defeating those who were spreading it. "Are those all women from Eagle Sect? How come I haven't seen a single man?" he wondered. He had fought only women until now and had yet to meet a man with blue skin. Screams and explosions still occurred. In fact, They got worse as he got closer towards the center of the city. The attackers seemed to want to destroy that location first. Suddenly, the walls of nearby house breaking due to an attack. He swiftly ran towards the house to help the person who was thrown. However, to his surprise, the one getting thrown was actually a blue-skinned woman. He wasn't expecting them to get overpowered by others at all. You think a measly cultivator who just entered the Foundation establishment realm can beat me? A voice came from the side as a man emerged from the other side. You. The woman was shocked that she couldn't beat the man at all. Oh, she might not be able to beat you, but what about if we both joined hands? Another woman came from the side, targeting the man. Ning was not only surprised to see these two women in one place, but he was also surprised to see the man here. First Elder, he said as he saw him. The man fighting was the first elder of the pure cleansing sect. He seemed to have an extremely strong cultivation base when compared to the woman. However, when the other female arrived, he frowned a bit. He saw Ning arrive and was surprised. Ning could see both hesitation and relief in those eyes. Ning quickly checked the other women's cultivation base and frowned. One of them was in the first Foundation establishment realm, while the one that just arrived was in the second Foundation establishment realm. Ning swiftly checked the first elder as well, and he was in the third Foundation establishment realm. *T. Just the first one should be enough trouble for him, and now the second one arrived. Can I even help him in this situation? He wondered. The women's skin was unnaturally blue, even when compared to the other ones he had met before this. Volunteer Ning. Can you do me a favor? My disciple is buried under that rubble over there. Can you take her away from this place, please? He requested. They're too strong for me together to protect her without distraction, he said. Ning looked to the side and saw half the body of Michaela sticking out from the rubble, all bloody. Without hesitation, he immediately started running to the side. You're going nowhere, boy. Become my servant. The woman with the first realm cultivation base jumped towards him, trying to touch him. Ning immediately pulled out his sword and slashed behind him. However, the woman was too fast. She had already appeared in front of him and suddenly grabbed his neck, slowly pouring in the corpse chi. Ning immediately used both of the yin conversion techniques, but it was too slow. He would die of choking before he could even suck away all the corpse chi. Even if he did manage to take it all away, the woman was still in the first Foundation establishment realm and was a problem to fight against. Ning used the sword in his right hand and swung at the woman. However, the woman just lifted her left hand and suddenly a blackish-blue barrier appeared in front of her. Ding! A loud sound appeared as the sword struck the shield made up of the corpse chi. Ning felt a massive rebound from the shield as the force traveled back to his arms through the sword. It hurt him a bit. But, he was dying right now, and getting hurt was a lot better than the other result. So, he slammed the shield a few more times. However, each time the shield easily blocked the attack. Ning was getting frustrated. Even though he was constantly consuming the corpse chi, the woman seemed to just have too much of a supply to empty her before he actually died. In desperation, he could only make his attack stronger. A bright yellow glow appeared along the blade of the sword he was holding. He swung the blade down with as much force as he could. The woman put up a shield once more to block the attack. However, something very unexpected happened. The shield, which was capably blocking every single one of Ning's attacks, suddenly parted when the sword reached it, and let it pass through where the sword easily cut off the left arm of the woman. The first Foundation establishment realm woman looked in shock as her left arm was just dismembered from her shoulder. She was not the only one in shock, however. Ning was pretty surprised himself. Even the first elder and the second Foundation establishment realm woman looked back in shock. How did that happen? Was the only question that ran through everyone's mind. Am I that strong? Ning questioned. However, he wasn't stupid enough to believe that, or even believe that the spirit artifact had something to do with it. It definitely had to do with my technique, right? Why else would the corpse chi split apart when I used the Radiant Holy SW? Ning realized the answer to his burning question. Holy. Corpse zombie undead. However he looked at it, holy power was a perfect counter to these things. Ning smiled. He finally had a way to fight these people without making his head hurt like it was a pincushion. Ning lit up his sword once more and swung at the woman. The woman was terrified and immediately threw Ning into the wall near her before he could even do anything. Ning pushed his chi to the opposite side to soften the landing and used the wall as a launching point as he launched back towards the woman. The woman took out her sword to stop Ning but frowned as she realized that her sword was weaker than before. What's going on? She asked herself. Ning was constantly collecting her corpse chi and she hadn't realized it yet. The black blood flowing out of her wound had stopped as she was using chi to block it. However, with Ning here, it was reopening. Only then did she realize that something was wrong. My corpse chi, it's gone. She thought as she looked at her arm. It was still blue, but not to the level as before. A blue wave of light appeared from her sword as she pushed Ning to the wall once again. However, this time he couldn't stop himself. The wall fell on him, as he got trapped under rubble as well. The woman finally sighed in relief as she focused on stopping the wound. However, Ning broke out of the rubble as if nothing had happened. Why are you so strong? She couldn't tell at all. He was clearly in the 7th chi condensation realm from his cultivation, but his attacks were really strong. The other woman was struggling too. With no one to help her, the first elder was easily taking care of this fight. A golden halo was lit up around the first elder as held a bead necklace on his right hand as his left hand was in front of him doing a half prayer. The woman would launch her attacks, but none of it landed on him. His golden halo stopped all attacks from landing on him. Amitabha, the man said as a burst of chi attacked the woman in front of him. She was launched back to the walls, and he finally had some free time to look back and see how Ning was handling. He could hear the faint buzz and smokes coming out of Ning. He had seen this before, or at least the sound. Ah, that's right. He can get rid of the corpse chi, the first elder thought. An attack slammed onto the first elder's exposed back, but the golden halo easily stopped it. Amitabha, he said as he focused back on the fight. The one-armed woman was starting to get anxious. With each encounter, she was getting weaker, and none of her attacks were doing anything to Ning. Ning had learned that with the normal attacks of the Radiant Holy Sword, he could cut through any of the woman's long-ranged attacks, and even if he was overpowered, with his level 8 body cultivation, it was impossible to hurt him. Ning was showing equal force as when he started, but the woman was getting weaker and weaker. The woman once more sent Ning flying into the wall, however, this time she didn't wait for him to get back up. Instead, she collected all of her remaining corpse's chi, and normal chi into her sword. Ning had barely come out of the rubble when he saw the woman prepare her attack. He could tell that the energy behind the sword was not something he could withstand on his own. He could use the strongest attack of the Radiant Holy Sword to counter her attack, but he would lose all of his chi in the process. The attack was just that draining. Even if he managed to block the woman's attack, he would be left to her mercy afterward. The woman had no such thought. She was planning on killing him in a single blow. Once her attack was ready, she slashed her sword right towards Ning. Ning tried to run away, but it seemed the attack was tracking him. Boom! A large explosion sounded when the attack finally landed. Both the first elder and the other woman looked back towards Ning, who was caught up in the explosion. Finally, the one-handed woman sighed when suddenly Ning appeared right before her, with his sword high in the air, full of golden energy and slashed. How? The woman didn't even finish her sentence when the sword cut her in half. Even in death, she couldn't understand how he managed to survive. Ning's left arm was bleeding a bit, but other than that, he was fine. The first elder and the other woman looked in shock. Taking the opportunity of the first elder being distracted, the woman launched a sneak attack on Ning, who had his back turned to them. Something in the rubble Ning had just been in moved towards him and stood in front of him. The attack landed on it and a huge explosion rang out. No! The first elder shouted as he was caught off guard. However, as the dust settled, Ning was perfectly fine, safely protected by what was in front of him. Ning put down his hands he had instinctively put up in front of him when the attack came. In front of him was a nearly 3 meters tall beetle with a long slender horn with 3 tips at the top. The overall beetle was about 2 meters wide. It currently had its front side turned to Ning as the back side had just protected him from both of the attacks right now. What is that? The woman couldn't help asking. That should be a great horned silver beetle, however, why is its body golden? The first elder whispered to himself a little. Ning's beetle had finally evolved in the 2 months since he lost the system and had fully turned to a golden-shelled beetle, one of the greatest defensive creatures in all of Kumia. The beetle was currently at 8th chi condensation realm and was relatively slow when compared to its contemporary, however, when it came to defense it was amazing. The beetle had just used one of the special techniques it had learned through evolution and used it to protect Ning. Ning could tell that the beetle was badly hurt, but nowhere to the point where it couldn't keep on surviving. Still, Ning brought the beetle back to the beast space after sucking away any remnants of corpse chi that might have landed on it. He checked his left arm that was hurt and tended to it. It was only bleeding a little, so he just closed the wound for now. Good job, volunteer Ning. Now go help my disciple please, the first elder said as he started to freely bombard the woman with attacks after attacks, slowly taking away her chances of escaping. Amitabha. The first elder's voice rang out as the sound carried an attack that directly crushed the woman's body. A second Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator was dead just like that. Ning walked over to the rubble and pulled out the unconscious Michaela. She didn't seem to have any corpse chi on her, so it was fine. Ning picked her up in a princess carry and started walking her to the city center where the Physicians Guild was. As he got closer to the center, the louder the sound of the explosion became. However, the sound of cries had died down considerably. Either people were now safe or dead. In either case, the town was silent of the cries. Ning ran his way to the Physicians Guild where a lot of people were hanging around. People with high cultivation bases, some who Ning had never seen before, had come out and had started to use the same bead necklace as the first elder and went around calmly saying Amitabha. Every time one of them said that a flash of golden light would appear from them that would wash away the corpse chi that was affecting a patient. What? Ning was shocked. He had never in his life expected that someone could cure something that even he couldn't through normal measures. Is that because corpse chi isn't really a medical injury, so the system didn't give me any information? He wondered. Also, the techniques the high-leveled cultivators in the sect were using were completely new to him. Meaning, they were probably hidden from him until he went to a higher status in the sect. Maybe he even had to be an elder to learn them. He didn't have the time to think about it right now. He quickly took Michaela to one of the physicians and left her. He ran back out of the Physicians Guild and looked towards the north where the majority of the explosions were sounding. Along the way, he fought more women from the Eagle sect, but with the Holy Sword, he didn't have to worry about anything. He finally reached the area where the sound was the greatest, the battlefield. He was shocked when he saw hundreds of humans and beasts fighting together against many women with blue skin and dozens of zombies. The humans and beasts were all hidden behind barriers set by a pure cleansing sect elder and threw out attacks from inside. The barrier was constantly blocking the attacks from the women and not letting any corpse chi enter the barrier. That was their sole purpose. Ning quickly checked everyone's cultivation base, but without doubt, they were all in the Foundation Establishment realm. This was a fight too high level for him. He could barely win against the first Foundation Establishment realm woman with his current cultivation base, and that too was after using a lot of his chi. He was now very low on chi and couldn't freely use the Radiant Holy Sword. This was not somewhere he could be. He needed to leave. The Pure Cleansing Sect, Mist Origin Sect, and a few rogue cultivators were fighting for their lives, but Ning didn't care about that right now. The fear he had been ignoring was flaring after seeing so many enemies. A single moment of carelessness would result in the death of his body. He wasn't sure what would happen to him now that the system was gone. All logic stated that he was still immortal, but he just didn't want to risk it. I should run back, he thought. He wouldn't be of much help anyway. Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out in the sky. Ning looked up to see 3 people fighting in the sky. Ning recognized only one of the fighters in the sky. It was the sect leader of the Mist Origin Sect, Ikusa. The Rainbow Phoenix was constantly roaming in the sky, sending out fire towards a woman. This woman, however, didn't have any blue skin. Her skin was the same as every other person on their side of the battlefield. She was fighting Ikusa and the other man with the sword. The last man was someone Ning hadn't seen yet either. He was bald and definitely from the Pure Cleansing Sect and had a very bright golden halo around him. He looked like he was in his late 30s, which was quite young for such a strong person. A strong bald person Ning had never seen before. He wondered, is that the sect leader? The fight with the woman with the sword, the Mist Origin Sect's leader Ikusa, and his own sect leader were on a completely different level from what he had seen until now. The fight actually reminded him of the half a dozen men who fought against the tiger monster in the southern continent so long ago. However, he didn't think that was on the same level as this. The woman didn't have any blue color to her skin, so Ning wondered if she had already lost it all. She was looking around with a hint of desperation in her eyes when she suddenly put her hands together and did something. All the women and corpses down below lost their corpse chi as it flew up to the woman, making her skin bluer than any he had seen until now. It was almost as if she was back to full power once more. *T. An hour earlier Ikusa and Kazir rushed to the city. They flew over the walls. Everyone, go down and help those people. Kazir ordered the people who were still looking in a daze towards the screams and fire. They quickly nodded and left. What is that? Ikusa asked, seeing people getting attacked by other people. Kazir looked at the attacker and took out his bow and arrow. With a single arrow, he pinned down the attacker to the ground by piercing his thighs. Let's go ask him, Kazir said and flew down. However, when they finally reached the man, they realized how bad of a condition he was in. Rotten skin, parts of the body that looked to be decaying, and a head with barely any hair. The man was in a worse condition than any of the patients Kazir had seen in the guild. Old man, what is wrong with him? Ikusa asked. I do not know. This is my first time seeing someone like this, Kazir said. Ikusa stooped down and looked at the grunting man. Old man, I don't think his heart is beating. I think he is dead, he said and proceeded to catch his wrist to feel the nerve. Yeah, I'm right. He has no heartbeat. He is basically a walking corpse, Ikusa said. Suddenly, a sharp pain appeared from his left hand. It was starting to rot just like the man's skin. However, he didn't fret. Heal, Ikusa said, and suddenly the rainbow phoenix spit out a fire that engulfed his entire left arm. Within seconds, his hand was back to normal. A corpse that is walking, could it be that this person was affected by corpse chi? Kazir said. What's corpse chi? Ikusa asked. One of the most heinous and evil forms of chi out there. According to the records, it's only possible to create corpse chi after a lot of deaths. Whoever is doing this must have killed a lot of people, Kazir said. Suddenly, a woman appeared in front of them. Someone whose skin was blue all the way through and was looking at the two with glee in her eyes. Another corpse? Ikusa asked. I don't think so. It looks more like she is the culprit, Kazir said as he looked to the side. Little miss, are you the one using the corpse chi? He asked. Oh, this old geezer knows about corpse chi. I thought only our sect leader did, she said. Sect leader? Only then did Kazir focus on her robes. It wasn't the same color as it used to be, but the design and emblem were still there. Eagle sect? Since when did the Eagle sect know how to use corpse chi? Kazir asked. Stop asking so many questions, old man, the woman said and launched a sword attack. Kazir only put up a single hand in retaliation as he assumed the half-prayer state and said, Amitabha. A golden ring starting at his feet and spread out, cleansing everything along the way. When it finally reached the woman, it suddenly pushed the corpse chi out of her as well, turning her skin back to normal. Burn her, Ikusa said. Suddenly, the rainbow phoenix opened its mouth and sent out flames, burning the woman alive. Within moments, the woman was reduced to cinders. Kazir turned around and looked at the corpse. The man was also cleansed of the corpse chi and was now just a normal corpse. What was that, old man? I don't think I've ever seen any one of you use such techniques, Ikusa asked. It's a technique written in our Buddhist scripture. It is a perfect counter to all sorts of evil chi and cultivators. We don't allow just anyone to learn of its existence, let alone teach it to them. Even in our sect, only a dozen or so people know it, Kazir said. Well, I guess it's about time you guys revealed your hands, Ikusa said. He looked at the place where the woman once stood and said, just what is Ulkai doing? Why is she attacking the city? We will have to rely on your Buddhist techniques now, old man. Seeing how useful they are, Ikusa said. I'm afraid that's not possible. I could only get rid of the corpse chi on that lady because she was weak. If I happen to meet someone at my own level, or God forbid it, above me, I will have a hard time just defending myself, Kazir said. Alright, enough talking. Let's go there. I have been feeling an ominous feeling from that place for quite a while now, Ikusa said. Kazir looked to the side. He could feel it too. Let's hurry up. I think my son is fighting right now, and I doubt he can beat them alone. Hopefully, the elders have gotten off of their lazy asses and started helping everyone, Kazir said. They immediately flew up and went to the center of the city. Along the way, Ikusa had his rainbow phoenix kill a bunch of zombies and the blue-skinned women, but he couldn't waste his time on these weaklings. As a sect leader, he needed to find the person with the most authority behind these attacks, and that would be the sect leader of the Eagle sect, Ulkai. Kazir quickly reached the Physicians Guild and saw people panicking as their body was starting to rot and the physicians had no clue. As soon as he reached, he activated his technique and cleansed a lot of people in the area. Ikusa, go and help with the fight, Kazir said. He had already seen a battlefield not far away when he was coming here. On it, Ikusa said and immediately took off. Where are the elders? Khazir shouted angrily, gathering all the elders at the place at once. There is a tragedy happening all around you and all you can do is hole up in here. What the hell are you guys doing? Khazir shouted. What else can we do, senior? I can't think of any cure to the diseases, someone said. It's not a disease. It's corpse chi. Use your Buddhist techniques to cleanse them. 2 of you stay here and heal the people. I and the first elder will go around cleansing the corpses in the city. As for the rest of you, go help our allies on the battlefield, Khazir ordered. Everyone nodded and immediately took off. Ikusa finally made his way to the battlefield. He could see the hundreds of disciples from the pure cleansing sect having a hard time with the fights. My disciples should be coming anytime soon. They will help alleviate some of the pressure, he thought. He then saw a bald man amidst the group who was fighting the blue-skinned woman's horde of corpses, but there were just too many. Kasum, use your Buddhist techniques. Those are corpses and will die with your techniques, Ikusa said. At the same time, he ordered the Rainbow Phoenix to go around burning all the different corpses and healing the different people at the same time. A ring of golden halo appeared around Kasum, cleansing all the corpses around him. How do you know that would work? Kasum asked. Your dad told me. They have corpse chi and thus your Buddhist techniques can fight them, Ikusa said. Tisk tisk tisk. To think there was someone with Buddhist techniques in this place, and a bird with phoenix flames too. What bad luck on my part. A voice came from above in the sky. Both Ikusa and Kasum looked up. Above them was a woman in her 50s, floating in the sky with a skin so blue that she nearly blended in the night sky. What are you doing exactly, Ulkai? Why are you attacking the city? Ikusa asked. Ulkai? Who's th? Right. That was what they called this body, didn't they? The woman said. Both of the men realized that something was wrong, that something was weird. You're not Ulkai. Who are you? Ikusa asked. No, I am not. I just took over her body 2 years ago. My soul was quite destroyed, so I needed quite a lot of time to recuperate myself. I wanted to get myself an army of corpses, but who would have guessed there were Buddhists living in this backwater city? The one that took over Ulkai's body spoke. You took over her body? Kasum couldn't help but be shocked. Taking over someone's body wasn't something one could do without putting in either a part or all of their own soul into someone's body. And the only way someone's soul could be developed enough to be manipulated was when the person had. You're a nascent soul cultivator, Ikusa said in shock as he realized it as well. Huh. You guys are quite smart for someone in such a remote place. Good job on knowing what a nascent soul is. The woman's patronizing voice was very irritating. 2 years ago, that means the triennial competition. Someone in the nascent soul realm was in that competition? Ikusa couldn't help but say. You were behind the decline of the Eagle sect. Did you cultivate corpse chi for over 2 years? But that requires tormented souls, dead people. Who did you kill? Kasum asked. Oh, you are smart enough to realize, aren't you? The woman said with a sinister smile. Ikusa and Kasum both had a sinking feeling. They immediately looked down to the battlefield, at the many women who were fighting. Where are the male disciples? Kasum asked. Dead, the woman said with a smile. You. Kasum got angry and immediately brought out a necklace with 108 brown beads on them. He held it with his right hand as he brought his left hand to a prayer gesture. Ikusa brought out a massive sword as well as a panther with lightning stripes all over its body. Come, I want to see how long you Foundation Establishment realm folks can last, the woman said and immediately formed a defensive barrier with her corpse chi. The fire spread around the sword as Ikusa had his bird lighted aflame. He immediately dashed forward to slam the barrier. However, that seemed to do nothing to the barrier. You are strong and have phoenix flames, but that isn't enough to beat my corpse chi, the woman said and suddenly hit Ikusa's face with a burst of corpse chi which made his face start to rot immediately. He got his phoenix to heal his face, but it wasn't as easily done as with the other low-leveled women he had fought until now. Amitabha. The halo around Kasum grew wider until Ikusa was inside it. The rot which was stopped by the phoenix flames immediately washed away. The halo stopped after it reached the corpse chi barrier and couldn't move any further. Are you okay? Kasum asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for saving me. It seems my Rainbow Phoenix's flames are not fast enough to counter her flames, Ikusa said. We will have to properly work together for this one. We can't go doing our own thing, Kasum said. Yes, I understand, Ikusa said and moved once more. However, this time, Kasum moved as well. The woman only smiled more. Come on, come on. I haven't had this much fun in nearly 5 years, ha ha ha. A bolt of lightning suddenly appeared out of nowhere as it landed on the woman. However, an invisible barrier showed visible black color when it blocked the lightning bolt. A blast of fire too appeared from the side, but it too was blocked by the invisible barrier. The woman only smiled looking at the fruitless attempts of the two sect leaders. I am very weak right now, but even then I doubt you two will be able to stop me at all, the woman said. Suddenly, spikes of corpse chi appeared from the barrier around her and attacked everything. Kasum. Ikusa shouted. I know. Amitabha. Kasum prayed and a golden barrier of their own blocked the spikes from coming in any closer. Ikusa didn't have any defensive ability against corpse chi, so he needed to rely on Kasum if he wanted to save his Rainbow Phoenix and Lightning Panther. Tisk. These damned Buddhists. Why are you guys so hell-bent on fighting us, huh? The woman said. Kasum said nothing and directly launched a blast of golden energy the woman's way. For the first time since they started fighting, the woman actually moved her hand at all. She brought it forward and a sword made up of corpse chi appeared in her hand. She slashed towards the incoming energy and destroyed it. My Phoenix's flames help a bit against the corpse chi, but not as much as your Buddhist techniques. I will instead focus on distracting her with my attacks while you deal the main damage, Ikusa said. Kasum simply nodded. Fire and lightning intertwined as it covered the massive sword in Ikusa's hand. Ikusa immediately dashed forward to cut at the woman, however, the barrier was still there, blocking his path. At the same time, a black paw landed on the woman's back. That too was blocked by the barrier. Before she could even attack either of these two, the Rainbow Phoenix flew at her with incredible speed, scratching the barrier with flaming talons. Suddenly, all three fell back into the golden barrier prepared by Kasum. The woman got mad. She was heavily damaged when she had found this body 2 years ago and had taken a lot of time to recuperate. As such, she didn't have time to increase the cultivation base of her new body and was on the same level as the others. The only thing she had managed to do was slowly indoctrinate new female disciples and staff in her sect to follow her orders and brainwash them. Seeing how weak her own new sect was, she had believed that all the sects in the area were probably similar as well. However, she neglected to check up on them just in case, and spend the entire time just reinforcing her soul to the body. FCK. I need to do something about that Buddhist or I will lose in a battle of attrition, she thought. A few new Buddhists had arrived down below as well and had started to turn the flow of the battlefield. My group is here to help, Ikusa said with a smug smile. A horde of new men and beasts walked into the battlefield as they started fighting the blue-skinned woman in the town. Ikusa once more rushed forward and slammed the barrier with his sword, but this time the woman instead clashed with him with her created sword. The Phoenix and the Panther also flew in at the same time to attack. The woman immediately turned around to attack them as well. Ikusa did another sword attack, which this time was blocked by the barrier. Kasum joined in the fray and started attacking the woman as well. A golden palm appeared out of nowhere, slamming down on the barrier from atop. The woman was now fighting 4 different opponents at once. She had tried sending out corpse chi to rot them, but the Buddhist's barrier would always cleanse the little amounts she sent out. If she wanted to do any actual harm, she would have probably needed to send in over 50% of her chi out to one of these two to completely turn into a corpse with it. But then, she would have to fight with the remaining one at half capacity and she wasn't sure she could survive that. So, she decided to just fight while not losing as much chi as possible. Relentless clashes rang out from the fight as the woman tried her best to survive the attack. A slash came from the right. She was used to it by now and was just waiting for it. The moment the slash came, instead of blocking it, she took the attack. She let the sword attack her body. However, she wasn't naive enough to not have any defense prepared. Viscous black goo appeared from her blue skin as it grabbed onto the sword that had struck her. Ikusa tried to pull, but he couldn't. While he was distracted, the woman took the chance to twist her body and disarmed Ikusa. She quickly grabbed onto the handle and swung the sword once before blindly stabbing behind her. Your cat gets pretty dumb when it doesn't have you commanding it, doesn't it? The woman asked as she pulled from sword from the Lightning Panther she had just stabbed in the stomach. No. Ikusa screamed, but it was too late. The panther's body rotted from where it was stabbed and soon became a walking corpse. Amitabha. Kasum immediately released a golden light that released all the rot from the panther, but it couldn't save the panther's life. You. Ikusa was angry. The 3 of them including the Phoenix got into a fight with the woman once more. The woman now held Ikusa's sword, so they were a little more careful, and with not having one less ally, they couldn't overwhelm as well as earlier. However, the woman wasn't that well off either. She had already lost all of her blue colors and the skin was back to being regular color. The woman's eyes showed both desperation and anger as she lost all of the corpse chi she had gathered in the last 2 years. You people really know how to get in the way of others, don't you? Even after I killed the cat you're not backing off, the woman said. You've already lost all your corpse's chi, you evil soul. Now leave Ulkai's body and repent in hell. Kasum said. A halo around him started to get brighter. Already lost? Me? He. Let me show you the power I really have. The woman suddenly stopped being on guard and took a deep breath. Ikusa and Kasum got on their guard, but nothing happened. What's going on? Suddenly, cries of surprise appeared from down below as the many women and corpses lost their corpse chi, which flew up to the woman in the air. The many Buddhists who came to the battlefield after Kaiser's scolding were now looking at confusion as they no longer knew what to do. However, they still held the barrier around their allies on the battlefield so that they didn't get hit by stray attacks. Ikusa and Kasum realized what was happening, but were too late to stop it. So, the moment they saw the woman's skin go back to being blue again, they started fighting once more. Ning was on the ground, looking at the fight taking place above him. Suddenly, he heard screams. The woman on the ground who had just lost all corpse chi started running around crazily trying to escape. Everyone ran in whatever direction they could, and inevitably some ran towards him. Ning took out his sword and prepared to fight. His sword glowed yellow as he clashed with the women. He was easily defeating women in the Foundation establishment realm now. It wasn't that he was too strong, but rather that the women were too weak. It's almost like they lost all of their strength along with the corpse chi they just got taken away from them. This is much severe than when I stole away the corpse chi, Ning thought. Some fights were done in a few seconds while some took up to 2 to 3 minutes to finish. By the end, he was tired as hell. He couldn't wait to return back to his cottage and fall asleep on his bed. The moment he killed the final woman who was attacking him, he heard maniacal laughter from up in the sky. I can't believe you really defeated me, but you two seem to keep forgetting something. Although you keep calling me an evil soul, you don't treat me like one, the woman shouted. Kasum and Ikusa were a little curious as to what she meant. My preparation lacked outside knowledge, so I failed. But that is all that happened today. My failure. You keep saying you guys will kill me, but do you even know how to? Ha ha ha, the woman launched. Can you lousy Foundation establishment realm cultivators really destroy a nascent soul by themselves? The woman asked with a smug smile on her face. Oh, no, she's going to escape, Kasum said as she realized why she suddenly started talking. We won't let why. Ikusa shouted, but then, Ulkai did something weird. She took the sword and cut her own left arm at once. Arg. She grunted a little, but there was more smile on her face than pain. What are you doing? Kasum couldn't help but ask. He would have never imagined someone desperate to survive would start killing themselves. You know, it's not very easy to detach yourself from a body once you've attached yourself to it. Although it has only been 2 years since I joined with this body, I still managed to adapt quite a lot to it. So, unless I do something as shocking as this, the body doesn't realize that it has to reject me, and the woman's voice was starting to face now. Only then can I leave this body. I met you two today and that was quite a surprise, but worry not, I will definitely return one day again. For now, I will take your own people's body and hide in it, the woman said. Suddenly, a black, ethereal figure with a blue glow appeared from inside Ulkai's body as Ulkai's body fell to the ground. She was already dead long ago. Kasum immediately screamed, all elders, immediately use your best scripture and protect everyone. Tisk. You are quite fast, but fortunately, not all of your people seem to be smart enough to gather around, the dark soul said. What? Ikusa and Kasum looked around and found Ning, who was standing amongst the midst of the woman's corpses he had killed earlier. Oh no, she has a free target, Ikusa said. Kid, go inside one of the barriers now, Kasum screamed. She is trying to take over your body. Too late, the soul exclaimed and swiftly flew over to Ning. Ning was shocked at what he had just heard. Soul taking over my body. The body I spent so much time making, the body I spent so much time cultivating, the same body that is the only reminder of my time when I wasn't something other than a human. That soul is going to take it? Like hell you will. Ning immediately brought his high above his head. Golden light started glowing from the sword. but this time the light was far brighter than anything he had seen yet. Haha. You think normal blades can cut through AS? No, what is that? Why do you have that? The soul screamed. Ning didn't hear anything. Simply, the moment the soul was less than 3 meters from him, he finally swung the sword. Radiant Holy Slash, a large golden attack appeared as it flew directly into the flying soul. No, not again. I refuse to believe that I would be defeated by someone like this. Why'd I always end up being killed by someone with holy energy? The ghost screamed for a few moments. And then it died. Somebody come give me a hand. I think there are people buried under this rubble. Hey, take this kid to the physicians. Let them check if she is all right or now. Ma'am, please stop. I am sorry to say it, but your children are gone. They won't come back from you harming yourself. Help, help. My son. Has anyone seen my son? Please, my son. Wah, mommy, I'm scared. My father, HHEK killed my mother. He. Why did he do that? Ning couldn't help but feel sad as he walked amongst the destruction. The battle had ended, they had won the fight, but the tragedy had remained. Now that there was no terror to distract them, the sadness had overtaken the city. Everywhere he went, all he could hear was the cries of people who had lost their friends and families. Daybreak had already come by the time he had woken up from his unconsciousness. People had been helping and rescuing for hours and hours, but there were just too many people. Ning had also walked out to help. He was currently carrying 2 small children on either side of his arm. He walked up to a large open field with thousands of dead bodies and laid down the 2 children there. They were dead as well. When he had to take the corpses away from their dying mother, he could hear her screams and curses at him, but he couldn't let her keep the corpses as the dead bodies fostered resentful souls that created more corpse chi. They were all to be burned as soon as possible. This was all too much for him. Seeing parents and children alike, dying for no reason at all but because of the whims of someone strong, he didn't like that. The cultivation world had the rule of the jungle where the strongest lived and weakest survived. But what about the mortals? What about those that were not cultivators? Why did they have to live by this rule as well? Why was it even possible to cultivate using the lives of those that couldn't protect themselves? There wasn't anyone that could answer this to Ning. No cultivator, no elder, not even system, there wasn't anyone to answer that to him. For the first time in a while, he was starting to feel like he was alone all over again. He quickly let go of such thoughts and went back to the city to help. He rescued a few people from under rubbles, helped heal quite a few of them, and carried dozens of dead bodies to the burning grounds. He worked for nearly the whole day without stop as his body was one that could. At the end of the day, the people gathered at the mountain of corpses that was nearly 50 meters high. The dead easily outnumbered the living. If only mortals were in question, there were barely any living. Even after everything Ning had done, more than 80% of them perished in the attack last night. He could see a bunch of girls crying wildly at the place where the corpses of the attackers laid. These were the girls who had left the Eagle sect after they sensed that it had changed, and had managed to escape the brainwashing those other girls unfortunately suffered. Kazir, Kasim, and Ikusa walked to the front of everyone gathering. Today, we are gathered here, not because we want to, but because we need to. The tragedy that befell us last night is not something we can ever forget. Just as we will never forget those that we have lost today. Mourn with me as we help light the passage to the departed souls so that they may not be lost on their way to the other side of the mortal journey, and may successfully enter the cycle of reincarnation. Kazir stopped speaking and started mourning for the dead. The rest of the people gathered there did the same. Silence reigned the city for a few minutes. After a while, Kazir nodded to Ikusa, who gave the order to his phoenix. The rainbow phoenix flew up to the sky and started tearing up. The tears fell onto the bodies and started sizzling. Soon, they were all burning. This was a special fire. It could be easily extinguished by other people, but if left untouched, it lasted forever. The people stayed there as they said goodbye to the ones they lost this day. The cries had never gotten quieter, but there was a hint of acceptance to them. Kazir walked up to Ning and said, "Good job on killing the nascent soul. If not for you, we don't know how many more tragedies we would have to have faced last night." "I am disappointed that I couldn't be of more help," Ning said. "Don't be. The fault lies in us. We saw that the Eagle sect was getting neglected, but failed to do anything about it. Had we intervened sooner if only to check on them, we could have averted this tragedy," Kazir said with a face full of regret. "Anyway, what will you do now?" Kazir asked. "What do you mean?" Ning asked, unsure what Kazir meant. The mayor of the city was the first to die last night. Following them, 70% of the rogue cultivators, 80% of the mortals, and more than 30% of the cultivators from both Mist Origin Sect and Pure Cleansing Sect died in the last night's fight. So, most of the people have decided to migrate to a different city, away from the reminder that is this destroyed city. There will be a few fairies that will come here around noon tomorrow, to take the people to a new location in the Scattered Isles. While most of the sect members have decided to stay and rebuild the city, what will you do? Will you stay and help, or will you leave with the rest and live your life someplace else? Kazir asked. Ning needed to think about it. Beautiful short hair moved around in the wind of the ocean as Ning stood on the deck of the ferry that was taking him to an island called Deep Skull. It was apparently in the shape of a skull and had thus gained the name. The ferry had picked him and the rest of the people up at around 11 a.m. and had only been on the move for 2 hours. According to the sailors, the journey would take them about 5 hours in total, so Ning still had 3 more hours to spare. Most of the people remaining in the city had decided to move as well, only leaving behind the 2 sects. Ning was sure that the 2 sects couldn't survive without the other people in the city and would soon have to move as well. That would be the end of Starsight City. At least the forest will prosper now, he said to himself. Dr. Ning? A timid voice came from behind him. It was a middle-aged man holding a 6 to 7-year-old girl on his arm. Yes? Ning asked. My daughter's fever isn't going down at all. Would you mind looking at her? The man asked. Yes, sir. Boom! A large column of water shot up as a giant octopus monster revealed itself, wiggling its multiple limbs around. Ning looked at the octopus and checked its cultivation. He turned around to look at the terrified man and said, just a moment. A sword appeared out of nowhere on his hand and soon it started glowing yellow. He put little force on the ship, and instead mostly used chi to suddenly jump towards the octopus. Wah! The man looked in shock. However, the shock didn't last long as in a single swing, Ning cut the octopus monster in half. He manipulated his chi to bring himself back and landed on the ship deck. Okay, let's check on your daughter, he said. He quickly felt her temperature, checked if she was sweating, and looked for overall injuries. She's fine. It's just a normal fever. Just make sure she drinks lots of water and gets a lot of rest. She will be fine, Ning said. The man was relieved. Thank you, doctor, he said and went back into the cabin of the ferry. Ning stayed outside and looked at the expansive ocean. I wonder if I traveled through these places last time I was here? Probably not, right? He thought. Soon he saw land far away. It was around 4 in the afternoon, so the time was correct. We are finally here, he thought. As the ferry got closer, Ning could see several people on the beach. Some were running around having fun, some were laying down nets to fish, while some were simply swimming in the ocean. These people were unaware of the tragedy that took place on an island close by, but it was better for it to be that way. Not everyone needed to be aware of the tragedies around them. The ferry went around the side and docked to the north side of the island. The island was oriented such that the right eye of the island was towards the north, and the left eye was towards the south. The ferry docked next to the right jaw. Ning and the rest of the people walked out. There were people ready to take the mortals to a temporary location, while the cultivators were given free reins. I wish I could learn about the city quickly, he said as he sighed to himself. Hey mister, you want to learn about the city? A kid said from behind him. Ning turned back and saw that it was a small kid in a simple t-shirt and trousers-like clothes. Yes, I want to learn about the city, he said. Are you going to ask for money for that? Of course, the kid's eyes went wide in excitement. How much do you want? He asked. 5 silver coins, the kid asked. Ning didn't understand if the kid was trying to ask for more than he was worth, but he didn't care. Do a good job and I will give you a gold coin, he said. The kid's eyes changed from excitement to surprise, but he quickly shook his head. No, I can't take a gold coin. Just give me 5 silver coins, he said. Is he really not scamming me? Or is there some other reason why he is refusing to take the money? He wondered. Ning took out a silver coin and tossed it to the little kid. Start talking. The kid nodded very forcefully and asked, what do you want to know about first? Geography, city, sects, different powers, stores, anything you can say. If you can give me a lot of information, I will even give you some additional silver coins, Ning said. The kid started speaking. The Deep Skull Island was separated into 3 sections, the jaw, the right eye, and the left eye. The Jaw was the major residential area where everyone lived. It was where most of the mortals farmed and grew crops. Just above the Jaw on the way to either of the two eyes was the market area. Shop, guilds, and other such places were there. Then came the two eyes. Both of the eyes were private properties of the only two sects of the island. The right eyes held the sect called the Blue Dragon sect. They were a normal sect that taught any and everything that a cultivator could want to learn. They were only good enough in what they did, but that was enough for the different disciples to want to join them. The left eyes held the sect called the Red Tiger sect. They were a bunch of barbaric fellas who did nothing but cultivate their bodies to the extreme. As such, they were one of the only sects in the Scattered Isles where everyone was a body cultivator. Ning found both of these sects very interesting.